Hey there, Stampers. This is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada. Welcome to this week's Friday Share. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. So some of the products that I've got on the screen here, you might not recognize. And I'm going to share where I got it from. It is all from Stampin' Up! But some of the products that we're going to be using today are from the scrapbooking brochure that Stampin' Up! Released at the beginning of September. There are some fabulous products in here, and I know if you are not a memory keeper, you probably haven't even looked at this brochure. But we're going to be making 3 cards today using this product. So I want you to have a closer look. I will link to where you can take a peek at it in the description below. But the product that we're going to be using today is actually, or 2 of the products that we're going to be using today. One of them is on page 18 of the brochure. It's called the Sweet Days of Autumn 12x12 DSP, and that is this DSP. So this paper pack is a little bit different than our traditional paper packs. So it is 12x12, but instead of getting 12 different patterns, you're getting 6 different patterns, and you're getting 4 of each sheet. They are double-sided. They are the same quality as the other Stampin' Up! Products, or pattern papers, okay? So here's front and back of that one. I absolutely love this entire collection. This pattern paper is absolutely stunning. And it's got a few different options. So if you are a memory keeper, then you could look at the Sweet Days of Autumn's 12x12 DSP and sticker sheet. So that gives you this pattern paper with a sticker sheet, a coordinating sticker sheet, or there is the Autumn to Remember Scrapbooking Workshop Kit, which gives you a ton of stuff. You get everything that you need to create 3 2-page 12x12 spreads, including this wood 6x12 sheet, a 12x12 sticker sheet, 2 die cut sheets, pattern paper, cardstock, everything that you need. You're gonna have tons of stuff left over that you can keep creating. So this is what I'm using for my October scrapbook class. We are gonna kill a kit. We are gonna use every last bit of this. So I will link in the description to where you can find out more information on how to participate in that. But today we are going to make cards. The other thing that we are going to use, actually from this brochure, I should mention before I forget, there are stamp sets that coordinate with these workshop kits. And most of them have just larger words or words that are meant for memory keeping. But this Autumn to Remember stamp set, this also includes some images. And these leaves and these trees are absolutely fabulous. I love the way they stamp, and that's what we're going to use today. But I needed to throw in an additional greeting set. So I thought about the cards that I need, because this is how I try to plan my projects that I share. I try to make them so that I can use them as well. And I need some cards for my team members. So I was looking through a stamp set for a greeting that would work, because these are more kind of memory keeping focused greetings, but the images can be used for anything. So I pulled out the Round We Go stamp set. I'm going to use this Hip Hip Hooray stamp. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. I shared both sides of these pattern papers. It's so great. We're actually only going to use these 2 today, but don't worry, I will have other projects that I can share using this paper a little bit later. So let's share a little peek at the cards. So we're going with a crumb cake neutral today instead of a white or a vanilla, which is very different for me. We are still throwing in a little bit of white, but it's mostly crumb cake. So I thought that would be a little bit different than normal. So let me pull out the pieces that we need for this. Now, I'm not going to go through all the measurements that you need in the video, because otherwise we'll be here forever, but I will link to today's blog post, which will have all of that information for you. Okay, so we've got our crumb cake card base. We've got a layer of pattern paper. We've got a scrap of pattern paper. We've got our inside layer, and then we've got this piece, which we're going to stamp on as well. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to stamp our pattern across here. And I'm going to be using 3 of the different leaves. So this one, and then this tiny maple leaf. And my color combination for all 3 of the cards today are Cajun Craze, Early Espresso, and and Old Olive. Okay, so those are the colors. I kept them the same all the way across because it's always nice to know that you don't need to own a ton of stuff in order to complete these projects. So we're going to take the big maple leaf and we're going to stamp our pattern going across, kind of across the middle. And look at the way it stamps. It's got so many variation in colors and patterns. It's one of the most beautiful leaf stamps I think that we've carried. I fell in love with the Changing Leaves stamp set or hybrid bundle that I've been using a ton of, but this is like, oh, I just love the way it stamps. It's so, so pretty. Okay, and then we're gonna use this leaf with some Old Olive. We're gonna kind of fill in some of the gaps here. Try to have it so that it's going kind of in different directions. So our leaves are not all going the same way. Let's see here. Try to figure out, I didn't leave a whole lot of space here. Do that. And then let's have one kind of off the side, and we're going to do one kind of here as well. All right. And then we'll fill in with that tiny little maple leaf. And I'm rotating them around so that they are not going all in the same direction. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, so we can close these up. And then we're gonna take a black Stampin' Blend and do a little bit of splattering. So I like to splatter using my Stampin' Blends. I use the brush tip and I take my bone folder and I just tap. And it gives me this really nice fine splatter without wrecking the brush tip of my blend. All right, now we're gonna take our snips and we're gonna distress around the edges. This is a great way to add texture. Since we're doing some outdoor kind of fallish cards, this is a great technique to use. All of today's cards could be used as birthday cards. You could turn them into a sympathy card, thank you card, thinking of you card. They could be used for any occasion whatsoever. Like, look how pretty that is. This would be a great way to create a border on a scrapbooking page as well. Okay. All right. Now we are going to stamp our greeting, and I really wanted the greeting to pop off the page. So we're going to do some embossing. We're going to emboss with some white embossing powder. So I'm just going to take my embossing buddy. This just removes any fingerprints or static that might be on the cardstock. And I'm going to use Versamark ink, which is a little bit different than a regular ink. It's stickier, doesn't dry quite as quickly, so that our powder will stick to it. And then I've got some white embossing powder. This is from our Wow Basics embossing powders. I think you get 3 different colors if I remember correctly. Okay, oh, we need a little bit more of that. Okay, that's on there a little bit better. We'll just dump this back in, and then we'll bring in our heat tool and heat this up. So I've got my heat tool here. I've got my glass mat underneath. The glass mat is heat resistant, so I'm not worried about it affecting it whatsoever. Okay, so you can see how that kind of went from a powdery look to a nice shiny look. All right, so now we've got all of our bits and pieces. We're gonna go ahead and start layering. I'm gonna start with this piece. I'm gonna use some multi-purpose glue. And I did distress around this piece as well. I did that off camera just so that it could speed things up a little bit. I'm gonna put it at an angle. just like that. And then we'll add this piece. This piece we're going to put on straight so that we have a nice even border. So you're just going to see that pattern paper kind of peeking out from behind. Okay, just like that. And then I've got a bow that I've tied with some linen thread, and I'm just going to stick it right here. Just use a dot of that multi-purpose glue. And then I've got my Hip Hip Hooray, which I've trimmed down. I'm just going to put some dimensionals on the back of that. Just a couple on here. And then this is going to go across like this. Just make sure that that's straight. Like that. We're going to finish it off with some of these gems. These are the faux glass dots. I will have a full supply list linked in the description below, where you can order any of these supplies as well. So we're going to use these Cajun Craze colored ones. Just pop those on there, just like that. And then what I did with these two pieces was I used those on the inside. So I stamped those, that same cluster of leaves. Like, look at the variation on those leaves. Absolutely love them. Added that little strip of DSP across the top, and that's the inside. So I'll do that afterwards. All right, so that is card number 1. And then we'll move on to card number 2. So card number 2 here is like, it's got a little bit of a window, and you can see it's decorated on the inside as well. So let's pull that one in. Okay, so I have gone ahead and done a couple things. So here I have taken my card base, which you can see that it's the same size folded. It's still going to be a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card, but I cut it 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5.5, so that it will open at the top like that. Okay. And I took this largest circle die from the Stylish Shapes dies, and I cut that window out of there so that it was about equal distance from the top and the two sides. So a little closer to the top. And then from a piece of Cajun Craze cardstock, I cut out the next size down. And that's going to be what allows me to have that little bit of a border around the edges. Okay, so we'll start by doing that. I'm just going to fold my card in half. I'll use my bone folder, make it nice and crisp. And then this piece is going to get attached to the inside. Just use a little bit of multi-purpose glue. Then we're going to position this on here. We'll turn it over so that we can see through. And we're going to get it so that that frame is nice and even. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's move it up just a little bit. Okay, that looks good. So it's crooked, but it doesn't matter because it's going to get covered over anyways. And then this piece is going to get attached on here, and we're going to use some dimensionals. So I'm going to put them on here like this. We'll peel off the backing. So this piece of DSP, it is directional. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be directional. You could use it going anyway, but they look like little trees to me. So I want to make sure that I've got this going the right way. And I cut it so that it was a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to position it so that it has a nice even border all the way around. So it looks really nice on the inside of the card as well. Okay, now we can see just a smidge of this Cajun Craze peeking out. I'm going to try to trim that just so that we can't see that. Doesn't matter if it's not perfectly straight because it's going to, there, now we can't see it. It's going to get covered over. You're not going to see it. And there is our little window. Okay, So now we're going to stamp our leaves. This time, instead of stamping on crumb cake, we're going to stamp them on white. We're still going to use the same colors. So I'm going to stamp one of the large maple leaves on here, and let's do the inside while we're at it. Okay, and then we're going to bring in some Old Olive. And we're going to stamp two of these guys. And we'll stamp, oh, I didn't stamp one on the inside, but we can. Let's go ahead and stamp one on the inside. Actually, let's go this way. Okay, and then we're going to bring in our early espresso. And we're going to stamp just a few in here. Okay, and then we're going to just stamp a couple on here. And I probably should have stamped these before I added my dimensionals, but I don't think I'm going to have dimensionals where I'm going to stamp anyway, so we should be okay. Okay, that worked out all right. Okay, now there are not dies for these, so these do need to be fussy cut. So I've gone ahead and I've done that. I've cut out the two green ones and the larger maple leaf. I've got a linen thread bow, and I've got another one of those Hip Hip Hoorays embossed exactly like the first card. And now we're going to create our little cluster. I always like to give a little bit of dimension to my projects. So I'm just going to use my bone folder and kind of curl it up a little bit. Now remember this is raised, so this front panel is higher than this back panel. So I'm only going to put a little bit of glue there, and then I'm going to use a dimensional kind of right there. I don't want to put it too close to the top because I do want that leaf to look like it's coming off of the page. So that'll go like that, and then we'll add our two green ones. I'm just going to curl those up a little bit. And we'll just use a little bit of multi-purpose glue. Do one going that way and one going this way. And then we'll add our bow. So just tied with some linen thread. That's going to go right here. And then we'll add some dimensionals to the back of this, and I'm going to use some mini ones. And we'll pop this right on here, like that. And then we're going to add some of these faux glass dots. This time we're going to use the yellow ones, because there's a little bit of yellow in the pattern paper, and we did not use any yellow on our stamped images. So I thought it would be nice to bring in just a little bit more yellow. So we'll just add 3 of those on here, and there we go. We've got another beautiful fall themed card. And then here is a look at what I did on the inside. So just the DSP across the top, and then we've got our stamped leaves. All right, so that is card number 2. Okay, and then card number 3, here is card number 3. So we're going back to similar kind of look to the first one, where we're going to stamp on our crumb cake, but we're also going to stamp on our white as well. So we'll do both at the same time. Now I cut this 1-inch strip, and we're just going to kind of position that there without sticking it down, so that we can kind of get an idea of where we need to stamp our border. So I always like to start with the largest image, because we know that that's going to take up the most room. Okay, and then we need to stamp one on here as well. And what did I do on the inside? Oh, that's right. I stamped it across the top on the inside. Okay, and then we'll bring in our next largest image, which will be the green leaf. So the other thing that I did was I kept most of my stamps in the same color. I stamped them in the same color for all 3 projects. This makes it so much quicker and easier to create a nice mix of projects. Okay, and then we're going to do one on here. And I apologize for my sniffling. I'm getting over a cold, so I'm still a little stuffed up. And then we're going to fill in with some of these maple leaves. Okay, and I did add a couple in here. Let's do. All right. Oh, and we're going to keep this out because we want a little scrap of white. And I had this label shape in my scrap bin, so I just pulled this out. We're just going to trim it so that it's rectangular, but actually maybe we'll leave the one end rounded. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm just going to stamp this just with some early espresso right on there. Okay. Now we are going to distress around the edges of this piece, just like we did in the first card. So you can see that we're starting with a very similar look to this one, except we're going to end up with a very different look for the card. Okay, so we're going around the edges, and then I'm going to do the same for this piece. This is such an out of the ordinary kind of neutral for me to use. I almost always use white. So I thought I would switch it up and just do some crumb cake this time. And I love the cards that we're making today. So fun. All right, now we're going to stick this down the side here. Fall themed cards are always my favorite cards, so I don't think it would matter what color combination I went with. I would love them. Leaves, there's something special about leaves. Okay, what I'm going to do is I've got a 16th inch handheld punch here. This is not something that we carry anymore, but if you've been a paper crafter for a while, you likely have one of these. And it doesn't have to be a 16th of an inch. You can do the same thing with a 1/8 inch as well. So I'm just creating a little notch here, because if you look at this card, I've wrapped some twine around it. So we've got this fabulous twine. It's either copper clay or Cajun craze, but it's close enough even if it is copper clay. I think it is copper clay. It comes in, I think it's called the Natural Tones linen thread. And if you follow me, you know that I love linen thread, twine, any kind of twine. I love to pull my ribbons apart. That's just what I do. I just love having just a little bit of texture on my projects. So, and this works perfectly here. So it comes in a set of 3 colors. Let's just trim this rather than struggle here. It comes with this copper clay. I think there's a navy and a garden green. Okay. Now we'll just tie a bow. This one end is quite long. That's okay. Okay, let's trim that so it's a little bit more even. And you know what? I don't like that. Let's try it again. Okay, I like how that's sitting a little bit better. All right, so we've got that. That is going to get attached to our card base, which again is a piece of crumb cake. This time we're going to use dimensionals to adhere it. Okay, so this is going to go in the center. Oh, it looks nice just like that. So this card at this point You could do it going down this way. You could have it going this way. I mean, if I had put this at the bottom, you could even have it coming this way and it would look, it works kind of, doesn't matter which direction you put it in. Okay, so then I need to fussy cut these. So of course that's done for us already. And just like I did before, I'm going to curl these up, give them a bit of dimension. And then we're going to add a little bit of adhesive right here. And we're going to put this leaf, we're going to tuck it under here like that. And then this one. We'll do like that. And then this piece, I think I'm going to leave this rounded. I'm just going to trim this so it's a little bit smaller. And I am going to curl this like that and put a dimensional in the raised part. And then I'll use a little bit of flat adhesive here and here. So this will get tucked right underneath here. And I'm not worried about this being straight. I actually don't want it to be straight. I want it to be at an angle like that. And then we're going to add some dots and we're going to bring in those Cajun Craze ones again. And then the last step is just to add this on the inside of the card. And our third card is done. So we've got 3 amazing cards using product that was designed to be used for memory keeping, but makes fabulous cards as well. So don't miss out on checking out that brochure. There's so many great things in there, so many things that you can do with them for any of your paper crafting or home decor projects. And also just a reminder, I will include a full supply list as well as details on my Kill-A-Kit Club, where we will be using that fabulous Autumn to Remember scrapbooking workshop kit next month. All right, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a fabulous weekend, and I will see you again next week. Take care.